Okay, well, it's official. We're about a minute early, but that's okay. Do I call you Emmy or M? What do you go by?
Emmy. Emmy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. So just for the record, we record this, as you know, and then what we do is we post the video to our website,
Okay.
which we're on the podcast page, so people can see it whenever they want to see it. You can refer people to it. And at the end, the IWIC guys, the International Writers, the team here will actually send you a copy of the video so that you can actually use it also.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me do the formal introductions.
You got it.
We got that covered. So my name is Rial LaPlane. I'm an author. I'm also a book reviewer for the International Writers Inspiring Change, which is the platform you went to that you got a feature on your book in the review. I reviewed your book, by the way. So, and the author shout out podcast is just one part of the service that they deliver as part of that feature that you purchase from them. And yeah, so I'm the host of the show, and we're interviewing Emmy Kavanagh. Where are we interviewing you from? Where are you?
I'm in Maine.
You're in Maine. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're 6 hours behind us. We're over here on the Europe, Central Europe in Sweden.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's where we're headquartered, is at this end of the world. All right. Well, we'll get started. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Okay, so Emmy Kavanagh, we're talking to you from Maine, and you authored the book Depression: Moving from Darkness to Light.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that the only book you've written, or?
Yes, that I've published. Yes.
That you published. Okay. And well, I guess the best thing to start off with is tell us a little about you. Who is Emmy?
Sure. So I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. My parents were married 50 years, lived in the same house. I lived 10 minutes from them. Um, and I lived there until my mom passed away, and then I decided to move to Maine with my wife. And I I don't know. I don't know what you.
Well, I mean, are you the writing is a sideline for you, but it's obviously not your career. Do you have another career that you're involved in?
Well, I right now, no, I'm taking some time off, hopefully to do some writing. But I am in more of the business side, process design, project consultant type work. I did work for one of the big banks for 23 years. Um, and like you said, just writing is just one of those things that I've always done. Ever since I was a kid, I can remember, um, just jotting things down. I've never been able to just sit and write. It usually just kind of words pop into my head, and then I gotta sit down and put it on paper. I'm a start to finish poet, so usually it's like 10 minutes and it's done. So
I saw that. I saw that in the interview that the IWIC people did on you. You actually said that you start writing and you just finish it and you don't go back.
Nope.
And was that the case with Depression: Moving from Darkness to Light?
So actually, that came about because I don't know if you know the celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain, um, but he passed away, and he was affiliated with CNN, and I was watching all the coverage about his suicide and how everybody was just kind of like, oh, he looked so happy, and um, that kind of thing. And I thought, like, I get so tired of hearing, I wish we would have known, or he never looked to me like he was like that, or whatever. And I just felt like all this coverage, nobody talked about what he was going through. what is depression really like?
Mm,
There's a lot of hype around mental health and, we need to get help and, therapy and medicine and, all those types of things. But nobody ever talks about what it's really like for the person who suffers from depression, alcoholism, whatever the case may be. Um,
right.
and so I decided to just write a book about it. And I had written poems, when I was in deep depressions, and I have like, I think I have over 500 and some poems in my
Wow.
yeah,
Impressive.
yeah. Um, but I
You
went,
find it cathartic? You find it cathartic to like
I
just say
do,
it on a poem? Yeah.
I do, I do. And so when I decided to write this book, I started to pull out some of the poems that I had written when I was actually in depression. I kind of come and go, and it was really it was weird because I had to go back to that place of darkness and despair, and I wasn't there when I wrote the book.
Mm,
So it was cathartic, like you said, because I it had been a while since I had felt that pain, and that darkness, and I had to physically put myself there. Um, and so,
was that difficult? Was that difficult to do?
actually, no, because I've suffered from depression my whole life. It's like one of those, it's almost like a comforting feeling, because like it's really hard to explain, but when you suffer from depression, it's like it just kind of sucks you in and you get
Mm,
comfortable in that feeling, in that darkness, in that despair and that isolation. And so you can kind of it was easy for me to fall back into that comfort. It sounds strange, but um that's just the
no,
way
it's
it's been for
fascinating.
me.
I've never actually heard anybody say it like that, but I
Mhm.
think that that makes sense to me somehow.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like a little
Yes.
bit of your cavity. You just kind of fall into it, and
Mhm. Like my mom used to say, depression for her, my mom and I were very close. We bonded over mental health issues, and she used to say, describe it as like when you go into the dentist and you get x-rays on your teeth and they put that big heavy lead blanket on you.
yeah,
That is what it felt like to her, which clicked to me. Like I was like, oh, that's perfectly stated.
it's a bit suffocating, isn't it? That whole thing
Yeah.
sitting on your
Mhm.
chest. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I pulled out all these poems, I thought like people can talk about depression and try and describe how it feels all they want. And people who don't have that mental health um, disease almost, it's hard for them to understand just through words. So
Mm.
I thought seeing is believing, you know.
You said the word almost there. Is it in 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 that field, in the mental health field, is it considered actually a definitive disease, or is it just a state of mind? I mean,
No, I believe it is. I don't quote me on that, but I do believe that it is considered a disease. Um, I've been through therapists and psychiatrists and medicine, and it took me so long, you know, to get to where I am today.
mm,
Trial and error, but I
oh,
decided to go, a friend of mine, a friend of a friend of mine, actually is a photographer, and my friend was going over for like he asked her to do like a photo shoot for him for something, and she asked me to go with her. And when I was there, I asked him, like, hey, would you consider taking some photographs for me? I think I'm going to write a book. And he was like, yeah. and I explained to him my thoughts on it. His name's David Hayter. He lives in Delaware. Amazing photographer, as you can see from the photos in the book.
Yeah, great
Um,
shots.
yeah. So when I talked to him, I said, I just kind of like, I have an idea in my head of the poses and the photographs that I want you to take, and I want them in like taken in a manner that it's heavy and it's people are going to feel it, you know. And I think he did a great job. Um, so
No, I
you
think
know,
when I read the book, I was impressed by the photos because they are, um, well, it's like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It
mhm,
carried a lot of weight on each one of them.
yeah, and that was really important to me.
Mm,
And I've never really, honestly, I've never really sold my book. Um, I wrote it. I think it's 2017 or 18. Um, and I never really did much with it, and I
mm,
would tell people about it, and most times I end up just giving it to them and not charging them because I feel like if they're asking for it, they must need it, or someone they know must need it, and that's really the purpose of why I wanted to do that. I wanted to, even if it's one person, whether they're suffering from mental health issues or they're a family member of someone who suffers from mental health issues, just to understand for them and for whoever is suffering to know that they're not alone and they can get
no.
through it.
I mean, I thought that when I wrote the review on your book, I thought, I mentioned the word brave. I thought it was brave to actually open up like that and tell the world, the inside, what it's
Mhm,
like. And like you said, people don't, if you haven't been through depression, you wouldn't understand it. Looking objectively, it's just, yeah, they question why and how come we didn't see any red flags and, all
mhm,
the usual stuff that goes when you see it on the media.
mhm.
But we don't know what that person experienced, what they went through. And I think, I mean, is it a sensitive area when people when people ask you about it? Is it a sensitive area for you to speak about?
No, no. In fact, I would love to be a motivational speaker is what I've always wanted to be, to go out and talk
Mm,
about this. And and I'm a recovering alcoholic, and that has a lot to play. They play off each other, and
mm.
um
I think you
my
would do great at that because I mean, you have this objective reality. And you have a compelling way of actually telling the story, like in a very succinct way. I mean, I got the idea just how you described depression in a
Mhm.
matter of 30 seconds. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, you should do
Yeah,
that for sure.
it's so important. It's one of those things that are it just I have obviously, a lot of compassion for mental health
Mm,
struggles and people who have family that struggle. I spoke at a library here in Maine about my book, and afterwards, I had a lady come up to me and say, "I'm really glad that I came because my sister is suffering from mental health issues as well. And I keep yelling at her to get off the sofa and do something, and then she'll feel better. And listening to you helped me see that it's not that easy. And that's exactly why I wrote the book. That's exactly why I did that talk, because
yeah.
it's not as simple as get up off the couch and just go. It just isn't that simple.
Have you since writing the book, or even just in your general experience, have, have you met other people who are going through depression?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like a lot of people have or are going through depression. It's just amazing when you talk to people. I'm like an open book, um I don't mind talking about anything. And
Mhm.
when I do talk to them, they're like, I know somebody or I have been through um and a lot of times, when I'm I'm in a 12-step program, and when I'm in those meetings, it's very common for people to be dually diagnosed. You know, you're an alcoholic, but also suffer from mental health struggles. So it's very much. Go ahead.
No, no, but it's interesting because you just made me think of something. Uh, do you think that people suffer from depression, but don't actually realize like that it actually is depression, or are in denial about it somehow, or
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be stigmatized as being
Mhm.
depressed, or
Yeah, I think there's a good amount of people who go through that, where they just either it's like they don't want to admit it to themselves sometimes,
mm,
I think, but definitely don't want to admit it to other people. I feel like men probably struggle with that as well, because it's like they
well,
feel like
that's
they
supposed
need
to
to
be
be
the
strong,
right, the silent culture. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other cultures that that's not really okay, to come out and talk about it and that kind of thing. So that's why
Is
I
it,
think,
is it in part, do you think, I'm just
yeah,
spitballing here because
yeah,
I'm not,
mhm,
but do you think in part it's also the fact that they don't want to be told or channeled towards the mental health field and be feel that they're going to sort of be stereotyped or flagged,
mhm,
or
yeah.
it's going to stigmatize them somehow?
I do think that, and I do like. There's been some, and I can't think of who they were off the top of my head, but I've heard football players talk about their battles and how hard it is for them to admit, and I commend them for that. Going out on such a big stage and
Mm,
saying like, "Hey, I have mental health struggles," and they're going to see a therapist or whatever. Um, and it's just so important for people, who have that kind of um, stage, to
mm,
talk about it, so that other people, see their idols and say like, "Oh, it is okay."
right, right.
It's not, what it has always been made out to be, back in the 40s or 50s or what have you. It's very common, I have found, like, now,
Yeah. Well, it helps if you know that, like, yeah, like you said, like if an iconic figure comes out and admits it, it makes it a softer landing for you to admit it
Mhm.
to people around you. Do you think, from your experience, and also obviously you, yeah, and your contacts in the field and just your experience, that depression is connected to some kind of traumatic experience earlier in life, or is it mostly, or is it just a matrix in the living of life? It starts to, something happens and
Well, I think there's, like, several different types.
mm,
Like for me, I have major depressive disorder, and that is like a chemical imbalance. That is a physical thing that I can't get better unless I take medication to balance those chemicals.
yeah,
And there's other people who, if someone passes away and they go through a depressive period, and so I think it's all of the above almost, but
yeah.
I like
So it
to
could be
make
some
sure.
acute or critical situation in their life,
Yeah.
or a physical injury or sickness
Mhm.
or whatever, like you say, loss of a loved one, and then
Yeah.
that's
But it
enough to,
doesn't have to be those things, like it I think it's important to talk about the chemical imbalance, and there's many forms of depression, and it's just important that people know to go get help, you know.
um,
And
well,
another.
you seem to be handling it, navigating it very well now. Like you look like you're
Yeah,
up there, holding on.
yeah. I look that way, but I don't always feel that way.
Okay.
When I moved to Maine, I my mom passed away, and we were very, very close, and it really rocked my world, and it's still, I'm struggling with that, and that was in 2021. And
Mm,
when I moved to Maine and, I got a job, I hadn't given myself time to grieve, and I just crashed, and I had to go out of work for a while, um, and my wife was there supporting me
mm.
100%. She was running the show. I couldn't get off the couch. I could not get off the couch, and that lasted a couple years. And a lot of people would have said, like, I would have never known that, because I feel like when you suffer from mental health, you're really good at different faces, putting on
Okay.
different faces, right? Like,
Which is what, like, it goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning, and people say, oh, they
yeah,
didn't look like they were depressed, but that's the whole
mhm,
thing. I mean,
right,
you don't want necessarily to show it to the world,
right,
especially if you're a public figure or, like you say, you're working in a workplace or,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, very good. How have people reacted to your book? Have you had any kind of feedback from?
Yeah, I was really worried about how my dad was going to react, because my mom and I had many, many, many discussions about it, where I was, where she was, that kind of thing, and she could relate. My dad, you know, had not real I had never really shown him how bad it was. Um, and when he read it, I think it impacted him for sure. Um, but it also helped him understand me a little more. And I have found that when I have given my book to people that I know, family or close friends, they
Mhm.
usually won't tell me what they thought about it. It's
Really?
Yeah, like I have never gotten feedback from someone that I've given the book to. I've never gotten anybody who came back and said, "I really liked it," or "Man, that was really eye-opening," or, people who know me, like, they generally I haven't had anybody comment it. Even my sister or brother, neither one of them, like, commented on the book. I had to ask them, and when I did ask them, like, they kinda skirted around it. So, I think
Why
it's
do you think
fun.
that? Why do you think that is? Do you think people are uncomfortable
Yeah,
talking about the subject?
I do. I do.
Mm,
I think it's very uncomfortable, especially when it's your loved one. It's like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I offend her? What if, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think people are just uncomfortable talking about it. And I think some people are uncomfortable with my comfortability of talking about it too.
no, because you are very open about it, which
Mhm.
obviously,
Mhm.
but you battled it successfully.
I still struggle. It's one of those things that I will battle for the rest of my life, but it's important. It was important for me to put some of those poems in the back, um, the light part of the book.
Right.
Um, there was one specifically that I felt like it was, yeah, my hope for you. It's on page 23. Um, and that's just talking about, like, I know how hard it is. I know how you're feeling. I'm trying to talk to somebody and let them know, that they will come through it. And I have come through it and gone back and come through and gone back. But I think as I've grown older, as I've gotten help, and psychiatrists and therapists and things, and I've come to understand it more, I'm able to catch it.
Mm.
My wife is very good at helping me through those times as well. Um, and it's just, I know this is something that's really not going to go away, but I know that I can take steps to try to keep myself in a good place as much as I can. Uh, You know,
Yeah, you're kind of you're on the other spectrum. You're there's flight or fright, flight
hmm
or fight or flight, and you're fighting it. And
Mhm.
I think that's an important issue here, that you're facing it and dealing with it. You're not in denial. You're like open about it. And I think
Yeah.
that's got to be part of the platform for success in battling depression.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you know what was frustrating to me when I was writing this book, and everybody talks about getting help, go to a
Mm.
psychiatrist,
Mm.
but psychiatric medication is so expensive. And if you don't have insurance, so I had always had insurance, I've worked all my life and
Mm.
23 years at one of the big banks, I always had insurance. When I lost my insurance, um, one of my medications was $2,200, one. And
Are you
like,
talking about $2,200 a month?
yes.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, if it's so important, why 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 are we charging so much? Why is it so expensive? Like, there's no help for that. And
Mm.
unless you have insurance and you have co-payments and yada yada yada. But
Otherwise, you're just sort of consumed by the depression. You have
yeah,
no.
you have to
Mm.
pick and choose, and that's really scary thing, like when I lost my job, that's a scary thing. Like, oh no, like how am I going to get my medicine? Um, that's a terrifying thought for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, you know.
That must be really difficult, because I mean,
Mhm.
not every American has health coverage. That's a known fact, and there's no real, over here in Sweden, where we're based, and people, there's a safety net.
Mhm.
Healthcare is provided. It's part of,
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about those kind of things. But
Mhm.
it's
And
tough.
you think too that there's you know, homeless people who suffer from mental health.
Mm.
How are they getting their medicine? And that's part of the problem is maybe they can't,
Yeah,
you
and then they
know?
resort to other
Yeah,
means, of course. Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? You sort of reminded me of something. I remember I've seen various documentaries on it and articles about how the since the digital age, particularly the smartphone, the rise of smartphones and stuff, teenagers and
Mm,
young adults, the rate of depression and suicide has risen dramatically over the
mhm,
last 15 or so years.
mhm.
What do you think about that? Does that seem real to you?
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
that's what the statistics say,
Yeah.
but
I can understand, like, where the suicides and things are coming from when I don't have social media. The only social media I have is LinkedIn. And
mm,
I tried to get on Facebook probably like 20 years ago, and I lasted 3 months and I was ready to jump off a bridge. I was
mm.
comparing my insides to other people's outsides because
Do you think that that's what catalyzes the increasing depression, is the fact that people are like trying to compare themselves or live up to other people's expectations, or
I think too, like, honestly, when it comes to kids, kids are really mean now. I mean,
mm,
I mean, there's bullying, online bullying is so bad. And
yeah,
these kids don't, they're not taught, like, we were taught how to like deal with things, problem solve, rationalize, things like that. And I just feel
right,
like there's not a lot of that now, because everybody's on their phone, on their
yeah.
computer. The human interaction is gone. So
No, I mean,
where
that's a
is
really
where
good point.
where is the empathy, right? If you're not interacting with people, where do you learn empathy?
Exactly. That's a
Because you're
very good
hiding
point.
behind a screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great observation, because it really brings to the table this point, which I've seen actually. Uh, there's one particular author, I can't remember his name, But he pointed out that the recent generation has been put in a position where they're not being trained to think, they're being trained to react.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
that's what the digital age is doing to a very large degree, is they're not, like you said, they're not, we in the older generation, I could say that we had to think process, we had to think things through. We had to, like, it was more cognitive ability, but when you have to just push a button and you're expecting a result within less than a
Mhm.
nanosecond,
Yeah.
you don't have to think about things anymore. You just look on Google, you just look for the
Mhm.
answer right away. The process has entirely changed. It's not.
Mhm. Yeah, and I had a discussion with a boss one time about, you know, like I don't have a college degree. So it's hard for me sometimes to get a job in my field.
You could have
And
fooled me. You sound pretty intelligent to me.
oh, thank you. But I was training a young lady who was 18. She was 18 years old, and I was working in a call center. And it blew my mind that I had to tell her, like, I would tap on her hand and say, "This is where you should say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." Like, you know, if like who's going to teach? Like, what kind of workforce are we growing? What kind of kids are we raising where the person to person interaction is so little when they're young? And that's one thing I really love about Maine. Honestly, I was reading that in my town, Bath, there's a public library, and they have all kinds of fun stuff for kids to do. They have like a Lego club there, and they have homeschool social hour where kids get together and they learn how to communicate and interact with each other. And like there's a lot of places that don't do that, and kids
Yeah,
just
no, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, in our day, it was the Cub Scouts.
Yeah, yeah. My brother was a Cub Scout.
Yeah, but you were like you learn social skills as well as other
Mhm.
skills,
Yeah.
life survival type skills. But yeah, it was kind of cool because
Mhm.
I mean, I know we had a boy living with us for about 6, 7 years who was very much into computers, and for the first 3, 4 years as a teenager, he never interacted with anybody except online, and it concerned me that he didn't have the social skills to deal with life.
Yeah. So when
Um,
people, when other kids are bullying you online, like they don't, I feel like a lot of kids don't know how to handle that. Because
no,
there was
exactly.
bullying when I was growing up. I was bullied, but it's a different kind now. It's a
It's a
different world.
cyberbullying now. Now it's
Yeah.
cyberbullying. It's interesting you brought that up because just today I watched a documentary called Catfish. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Netflix.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know the show, but I don't think I've seen the movie.
It's a documentary about two teenagers living in a small town in Wisconsin
Mhm.
who get cyberbullied by an anonymous person, and the results, what they go through for 2 years, nearly just destroying their life, and it
Yeah.
was all just on a telephone.
Yeah.
But they were
Yeah.
so stuck to the social media aspect that phone had more power over them than the reality of the world around them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think it's important that we don't like pigeonhole what mental health is, how you get it,
Um,
you know what I mean? Because it's so different for everyone. And
yeah,
the consequence for actions are just not the same. You go to school and you bully somebody in school. Like for me, when I was younger, you go to the principal's office, whatever. But now, like I just feel like they're afraid.
well, yeah, unfortunately, they're pretty helpless about it because that they don't know who the
Mhm.
cyberbully is.
Mhm. Well, a
It's
lot of
difficult.
times it's people they know.
Yeah,
It's like you should kill yourself. It's like who, there's been so many stories of kids who have said that to one another, and then they actually do it. Like
that's right.
the consequence to your actions are not.
Which is what's Yeah, which goes back to this point that you brought up about the fact that we have a culture that's being trained to react to
Mhm.
an impulse, a social media impulse,
Mhm.
as opposed to thinking things through. Like, as I was watching this documentary today, I was thinking, okay, why don't these two teenagers just shut off their phones and just go out and live the world? I mean,
Right.
but that phone has such power over them that it's a necessity almost. It's an obsession.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's funny because I wrote a poem. I worked at a hospital and they had this contest about like patient care and, creatively expressing what that means to you or, whatever the case may be. And I was like, maybe I'll just submit something. So I decided I just like came out of the blue. I sat down and it just like poured out of me on paper, this poem, and I
Mm.
submitted it, not thinking anything would ever come of it. And I actually won the contest. Um, and if you don't mind, I can read it to you right now if you'd be okay with that.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. It's called Below the Surface. The surface. We look at it every day when we order our coffee and pay the cashier, when we are driving in rush hour traffic and get cut off by another car, when we punch in at the time clock and say hi to a coworker, when we speak to our patients throughout the day. There has to be more to them. If I just stop and look them in their eyes, I realize there is more to them. I think of two words, empathy and compassion. Two very important words, two very important actions. But what do they mean below the surface? What is That is what I think they mean. I struggle with depression. Maybe someone else lost their job. Maybe someone else lost someone who was very important to them. Or maybe they're just lonely and need a kind word. You have to look below the surface. We all have one thing in common: life. Everyone in this entire world is just trying to live life. Look below the surface. Empathy, compassion, two very important words, two very important actions. When a patient calls or is complaining about the wait time in the lobby or is late for their appointment, I try to remember it's not about me. They are just trying to live their life the best way that they can. At that very moment, empathy, compassion, two words we should never forget, two actions we should always practice by trying to look below the surface. Um, and it's like everybody's battling something. You, you never know, what someone's going through. And so I try to
It's like
smile.
trying to judge a book by its cover. You
Yeah.
cannot understand or even
Mhm.
figure out what's going on in the pages until you read the book.
Yeah.
It's a very nice poem, by the way.
Thank
Very
you.
nicely written. Yeah, very heartfelt. I think what you're doing, Emmy, is really great, and I think it's in my experience as an author, we all want to have feedback. We all want to know what people think of our work.
Mhm.
But I discovered after several years when people would write me back that they don't tell you necessarily the effect that it had, but it always plants seeds. It does something. It starts a domino effect. It starts
Yeah.
a ripple, and so you can never measure that effect. And one you inspire one person, that inspires
Mhm.
10 other people. You have no idea how far it can go.
Yeah.
And
That's so
the thing
true.
to do is just to keep doing it. And your idea of going out and doing some kind of motivational talks on the subject, I think, is a brilliant idea, because I think there are probably not enough people talking about the subject.
Yeah. Yep. It's a hard field to get into, I'll tell you that. It's
Yeah,
not.
of course, because they're looking for professional, maybe people licensed or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but I would love to
Well,
do.
your book, Depression: Moving from Darkness to Light, I think it should be read by more people. We at IWIC here at International Writers, we will continue to promote it
Thank
through
you.
our own channels.
Mhm.
You can always see that on our social media line.
Mhm. And
You kind of get
I appreciate the kind review that you wrote too. It really, it was
yeah,
very,
it was sincere. Absolutely. I mean, I don't read a lot of books about people really going through depression like that. So I was impacted by the story.
Mhm.
We're pretty much going to end off here.
Okay.
Two questions for you. Are you planning to do any other books or write on the subject or affiliated?
I would love to. I would love to put out another poetry book.
Mm.
Um, and I would love to write a novel. Um, but I don't know, what that would entail. But I would love to, like I said, go out and talk about it. But I do want to publish another book. I'm struggling with how
Well,
again.
maybe you should just do that with the process you told me about. Start and just keep going.
True.
See what comes out. I
Yes.
spoke to an author just a couple of weeks ago who, like me, we said, okay, I start writing a book and I just keep going and I finish it. First draft, I don't even bother thinking about, and then go back and start the editing and the fixes and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So sometimes it's good to just plow through and get it all on paper.
And I think this organization is really amazing what you guys do. When I don't remember, I think I got it. I don't remember how I heard about it, but I was I think it was you that I was going back and forth with in the very beginning maybe. And I was
Yeah.
like $25 like a month, and no, it's $25. And it was like one of those things that I just like could not get past. Like there's got to be some kind of catch. And it's like no, they just are trying to promote authors, and help people get ahead and help people get the word out on their books. And that's amazing. So I'm glad
Yeah.
I found it.
No, and we're glad that you did. All right, last question for you.
Mhm.
Any tips for some new novelist author wanting to break into the field as a writer? What would you say to them? What's the one thing you would say?
I would say do it. That's what I would say. I would say if you're a writer and and you're using your feelings and your experience and your thoughts, and that is something that is way better than therapy sometimes. And I say just write it and do it. And the publishing part, can be very frustrating. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think writing is cathartic for the soul because you can reach down and say things that not necessarily coming out in any other channel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Emmy, it's been great talking with you.
Really nice to talk with you too.
Yeah, I love the conversation. And well, if you do another book, come back to us. We'll be happy to feature it and review it.
Well, thank you. I will do that.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Have a great week, okay?
You too. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye-bye.